Anubis explained, the god who weighed hearts and devoured them. We are told the story of Anubis, the solemn master of rites, the inventor of embalming, the incorruptible judge who weighs the hearts of the dead against a single perfect feather of truth. It is a story of order, of justice, of a peaceful, well-managed transition into the afterlife. But what if this sacred ritual, the very foundation of Egyptian belief, is a facade, a beautiful, elaborate, and necessary lie to conceal a truth so terrifying it would shatter the mortal mind? What if the scales do not just measure sin but sustenance? What if the hearts of the damned are not merely punished, but consumed? And what if Anubis is not the judge, but the priest of a hunger as old as darkness itself? Today we journey into the Deat, the Egyptian underworld, and we look past the golden scales and into the abyss that lies beyond. This is not a story of a god of the dead. This is the story of a god who feeds the void. A story of a lonely sentinel whose entire existence is a secret, a sacrifice, and a terrible, eternal duty. Welcome to Mythos Unveiled. Today we seek to explain Anubis, not as the guardian of souls, but as the one who determines which souls are worthy of being devoured. To understand the nature of Anubis, we must first understand the nature of his birth. He was not born of a simple, divine union. He was the product of shadow, of betrayal, and of a cosmic imbalance. His mother was Nephthys, the goddess of the night, of mourning, and of the hidden places. She was the wife of the chaotic desert god Set. But her heart, in a moment of longing or deception, strayed. She desired her other brother, the verdant and noble Osiris, the god of life and civilization. Disguising herself as Osiris's own wife, the great goddess Isis, Nephthys came to him in the dark. From this secret, imbalanced union a child was conceived. A child born not of love, but of trickery. Not of order, but of a disruption in the fabric of Ma'at, the divine principle of truth and cosmic balance. Nephthys, terrified of what her violent and jealous husband, Set, would do if he discovered the child was not his, made a desperate choice. She abandoned the newborn infant in the desolate wastes between the desert and the fertile lands, hoping the wild would claim him, erasing her transgression. But the child was not claimed by the wild. He was found. The great mother goddess, Isis, in her infinite wisdom and compassion, discovered the abandoned infant. Recognizing him as her husband's son and her sister's child, she took him in, adopting him as her own. She named him Anubis. He grew up in the shadow of the great gods, a quiet, solemn, and deeply unsettling child. While other young gods might play and boast, Anubis was silent. He did not laugh. He did not weep. He simply watched, his dark, intelligent eyes seeming to see beyond the world of the living, into the realm of shadow that was his birthright. Animals would not approach him. The loyal dogs of the palace would fall silent and lower their heads when he passed. The cats, sacred to the sun, would arch their backs and hiss at his shadow. He carried with him an aura, a stillness, a presence that was not of this world. It was the cold, quiet emptiness of the void, a subtle wrongness that clung to him like a shroud. The Papyrus of Whispers, a forbidden text supposedly burned by the priesthood of Ra, speaks of his youth. Where the child Anubis walked, the flowers would not wilt, but they would forget to turn towards the sun. The air around him did not grow cold, but it lost its warmth. He was not a presence of evil, but a presence of absence, a hole in the shape of a god. His adopted mother, Isis, loved him dearly, but even she felt it. She would watch him as he sat for hours, staring not at anything in the room, but at the shadows in the corners, as if listening to a conversation no one else could hear. He had an innate and disturbing connection to the end of things. He would find birds that had fallen from their nests and, instead of burying them, he would meticulously arrange their feathers, wrap their small bodies in strips of linen, as if performing a ritual he had never been taught, but had always known. He was born of a secret, and he was destined to keep a far greater one. He was not just a god, he was an anomaly, a child created by a disruption in the divine order, and his very being became a gateway, a conduit for a force that existed outside of that order. A hungry, silent, and patient force that had been waiting for just such an opening since the dawn of creation. The tragic and defining event of the Egyptian pantheon was set in motion by Anubis's own conception. His vengeful uncle, Set, the god of chaos and the desert, eventually discovered the truth of his wife's betrayal. Consumed by a jealous rage that would sunder the divine family, he plotted his revenge against his brother, Osiris. Set tricked Osiris, trapping him in a magnificent, custom-made chest and casting it into the Nile. But this was not enough for his hatred. After the grieving Isis found the body of her husband, Set, in a final, brutal act, dismembered the corpse of Osiris, scattering the pieces across the length and breadth of Egypt. It was an act of ultimate desecration, designed to ensure that Osiris could never be properly buried, that his soul could never find peace in the afterlife, that he would be erased from existence. The grief of Isis and Nephthys was a storm that shook the heavens. They searched tirelessly, gathering the scattered pieces of their beloved husband and brother. But they were faced with a terrible problem. The body was broken, beginning to decay. How could they perform the sacred rites? How could they send him to the underworld, if he was not whole? It was then that Anubis, now a young god, stepped forward. The quiet, solemn child had grown into a being of immense, if unsettling, authority. He looked upon the broken form of his father, and there was no grief in his eyes, only a profound, ancient, and chilling focus. He knew what to do. He had always known. This is the moment the myths tell us that Anubis invented the art of embalming, of mummification. But that is the simple story. The unveiled truth is far stranger. He did not invent it. He remembered it. As he knelt beside the pieces of Osiris, as he touched the cold, divine flesh, a torrent of innate, ancestral knowledge flooded his mind. He was not learning. He was accessing a process that was as much a part of him as his own heartbeat. He called for linen strips, for rare resins, for natron salts, for canopic jars. The other gods watched in stunned silence as he worked with a speed and a precision that was both masterful and deeply unnatural. But something else was happening. As he worked, he felt a presence rise within him. The same presence that had whispered to him from the shadows of his youth. It was a cold, vast, and ravenous hunger. It was the voice of the void he was connected to, and it saw the immense, potent divine essence of the dead god Osiris, and it was pleased. The ritual of mummification, as Anubis performed it, was not just about preservation. It was a ritual of consecration. Each wrap of linen was a prayer. Each application of resin was an anointing. He was not just preparing a body for burial. He was preparing a magnificent meal for the great, silent hunger he served. He was marking the soul of Osiris as a grand offering, the most powerful soul the void had ever had the chance to consume. He could feel the pull, the desire to complete the ritual, to let the darkness take his father, to offer this ultimate sacrifice and finally appease the gnawing emptiness he had always felt within him. The void promised him power, a sense of belonging, a final purpose. But then he looked at the face of Isis, his adopted mother, her features racked with a grief so profound it seemed to have physical weight. He saw the love she had given him, the protection, the kindness. He saw his family. And in that moment, for the first and perhaps last time in his existence, Anubis made a choice that went against his own dark nature. He defied the hunger. With a final, terrible act of will, he twisted the ritual. He completed the mummification, making Osiris whole again, but at the last moment, he added new words, new symbols of protection, wards of preservation that were not part of the original, remembered rite. He did not offer the soul to the void. He sealed it away from the void, preserving it, protecting it, and sending it on its journey to the underworld to become its king. He had saved his father, but he had denied his own dark god. The hunger, for the first time, had been refused a meal it had been promised. And it was not pleased. A cold silence fell upon Anubis's soul, a silence filled with a patient, disappointed, and eternal waiting. He had learned his function, and he had learned the pain of defying it. He would not make that mistake again. Osiris became the king of the underworld, but it was his son, Anubis, who became the master of its most crucial threshold. The Hall of Two Truths, the place of final judgment. It is here that every soul, upon its death, must face its final reckoning. Let us walk with a soul into this hallowed, terrifying chamber. After a long and perilous journey through the Deat, guided by Anubis, the soul arrives before two great doors. They swing open into a vast, silent hall. 42 divine judges, assessors of Ma'at, sit in solemn rows, their faces impassive. At the far end of the hall, on a great throne, sits the resurrected king, Osiris. But the center of the hall is what draws the eye. Here stands Anubis, his jackal head silhouetted against a dim, eternal light, and before him, a magnificent set of golden scales. The scales of justice. The soul is led forward. It must then perform the negative confession, addressing each of the 42 judges and declaring a sin it has not committed. I have not stolen. I have not murdered. I have not been deceitful. I have not been greedy. It is a process of purification, of laying one's life bare before the gods. But this too is a facade. The confession is not for the judges. It is for Anubis. As the soul speaks, as it recounts its life, its virtues and its hidden sins, Anubis is not listening to the words. He is tasting the essence. The confession is not a plea of innocence. It is a presentation of the soul's flavor profile. The lies, the truths, the passions, the regrets, all of it creates a unique psychic residue that Anubis can sense. After the confession, the final, iconic moment arrives. Anubis, with a solemn gesture, takes the heart of the deceased, the IB, which the Egyptians believed to be the seat of intelligence, emotion, and memory, and places it on one of the golden pans of the scale. On the other pan, he places a single, pure, white ostrich feather, the feather of Ma'at, the symbol of truth, order, and cosmic balance. The story is simple. If the heart is lighter than the feather, it is pure, and the soul is granted passage to the eternal paradise of the field of reeds. If the heart is heavier, weighted down by sin and corruption, it is judged to be impure. The scales tip, and the heart is thrown to the floor, where it is devoured by a monstrous creature waiting patiently by the scales. Ammit, the devourer of the dead, a terrifying chimera with the head of a crocodile, the forequarters of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. The soul, its heart devoured, is then condemned to cease to exist, to be annihilated forever. This is the story told in the Book of the Dead. This is the comfort offered to the living. The truth is infinitely more horrifying. Ammit is real, but she is a decoy, a piece of brilliant, terrifying stagecraft. She is the janitor of the underworld, the cleanup crew for the empty shells. The true devouring has already taken place. Let us watch again, but this time with unveiled eyes. A soul comes before the scales. Its heart is heavy, filled with a life of greed, of passion, of complex, interesting sins. It is a rich heart, filled with potent psychic energy. Anubis places it on the scale. The feather is placed on the other side. The scales tip. The heart is heavier. But in the moment it is judged, something else happens. The shadows in the room deepen. The air grows cold. The 42 judges seem to fade into the background. All focus is on Anubis. And as the heart is declared impure, Anubis does not throw it to Amit. He simply touches it. And in that touch, the soul screams, a silent, spiritual scream that no living ear can hear. Its essence, its memories, its love, its hate, its very being, is not eaten, but drained. It is siphoned away in an instant, flowing through Anubis as a conduit, and offered as a tribute into the bottomless, silent hunger of the void he serves. The heart, now a spiritually inert, empty husk, is then tossed to Amit, who merely disposes of the physical leftovers. Now consider a different soul, a simple, virtuous farmer. His heart is light, almost weightless. It is a bland heart, lacking the rich, complex energy that the void craves. Anubis places it on the scales. It is lighter than the feather. The soul is declared worthy and is sent to the field of reeds. It is not a reward for virtue. It is a rejection. The soul is not a suitable offering. It is unripe, unseasoned, and is cast aside, allowed to continue its existence in a placid, uninteresting paradise. The weighing of the heart is not a judgment of morality. It is a judgment of quality. Anubis is not a judge of good and evil. He is a connoisseur of souls, selecting the richest, most flavorful, most potent essences to feed the eternal, cosmic hunger that he alone is tasked with placating. What is this great hunger? What is this void that Anubis serves? It is not a god. It is not a demon. It is something far older and more fundamental. It is the first silence, the devouring void, the state of non-being that existed before creation. It is a sentient form of entropy, a cosmic force whose only desire is to unmake reality, to consume existence, and to return the vibrant, noisy, chaotic cosmos to the perfect, silent emptiness from which it came. The Egyptian gods, in their great act of creation, did not defeat this void. They could not. Instead, they built reality around it, pushing it back, creating a bubble of existence protected by the laws of Ma'at. But the birth of Anubis, the child of an unbalanced union, created a flaw, a tiny pinprick in the fabric of their creation. Through this flaw, the void was able to imprint itself upon a divine being, creating a permanent conduit, a bridge between existence and non-existence. Anubis became its priest, its agent, its mouth. The gods of the Egyptian pantheon, in their immense wisdom, quickly realized the terrifying situation they were in. They could not destroy Anubis without shattering the fragile balance and ripping the whole wider, potentially allowing the void to flood into their creation. But they could not let the void feed indiscriminately. And so, a great, unspoken cosmic bargain was struck. Anubis would be given a sacred and terrible function. He would be the regulator. He would manage the hunger of the void, feeding it a steady, controlled diet of the most potent mortal souls. In exchange, the void would not actively try to unmake the rest of creation. It would remain in its slumber, placated by the steady stream of sustenance provided by its high priest. Anubis's role is, therefore, the most important in the entire pantheon. He is the foundation upon which their entire order is built. He maintains Ma'at not by upholding justice in the mortal sense, but by performing a horrifying, necessary act of cosmic sanitation, culling the spiritual herd to keep the great predator at bay. He is the reason the world continues to exist. For millennia this terrible secret was kept. But nothing, not even a secret kept by the gods, can remain hidden forever. And the one god with the wisdom and perception to notice the discrepancy was Thoth. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of knowledge, of writing, of magic, and of the moon. He was the great scribe of the gods, the one who recorded everything. His domain was information, patterns, and the balance of all things. And he began to notice a pattern in his cosmic ledgers. He saw the souls arriving in the Deat. He saw the judgments recorded. He saw the virtuous pass to the field of Ares, and the damned recorded as devoured by Amit. But when he measured the total spiritual energy of the underworld, he found a constant, unexplainable deficit. Souls were arriving, but their essence, their spiritual weight, was vanishing. It was not being destroyed, not being recycled. It was simply gone. His quest for knowledge led him to the Hall of Two Truths. He stood and watched the process for an age, his keen, intelligent eyes missing nothing. He saw the ritual, the scales, the judgment, and he saw the moment a heart was judged as heavy. He saw the flicker in the shadows behind Anubis. He felt the momentary, almost imperceptible drop in the spiritual temperature of the universe. He saw the soul's light dim and vanish before the heart was tossed to the waiting monster. He confronted Anubis. It was not a battle of weapons, but a tense, quiet, and terrifying debate in the heart of the underworld. A confrontation between knowledge and a truth that defied all knowledge. "There is an imbalance," Thoth stated, his voice calm and measured. "The great account is not square. Energy is leaving our system. Tell me where it goes, son of Nephthys." Anubis, for a long time, was silent, his jackal face an unreadable mask. But he could not lie to the God of truth. And perhaps, after so long, a part of him needed to share the burden. He did not speak it aloud. He simply opened his mind to Thoth, and for a terrifying instant, he let the God of wisdom feel what he felt every moment of every day. The cold, pulling, eternal hunger of the void. Thoth recoiled, his divine mind reeling from the sheer, anti-existent wrongness of it. He saw the prison in Tartarus, he saw the firstborn fears, and he saw the even greater terror they guarded against. He saw the bargain. He saw the terrible, necessary function of the God before him. He was horrified, but as the God of wisdom, he understood. He understood the terrible logic. He understood that Anubis was not a monster, but a fulcrum upon which all of reality was balanced. "The secret is safe with me," Thoth whispered, his voice filled with a new, profound, and sorrowful respect. He left the Hall of Two Truths a changed God, now a co-conspirator in the great, terrible deception that kept the universe from being unmade. He understood now why Anubis was so silent, so solemn. He was the keeper of the most terrible secret of all. This unveiled truth recontextualizes the entirety of Egyptian funerary belief. The elaborate rituals, the mummification, the tombs, the Book of the Dead, they were not just about ensuring a peaceful afterlife for the individual. They were part of a grand, cosmic system designed to support Anubis's function. Mummification was not just to preserve the body. It was a process of preparing the soul, of concentrating its essence within the heart, making it legible and stable for the weighing ceremony. A soul that dissipated too quickly was a wasted resource. The Book of the Dead, with its spells and incantations, was not just a guidebook for the deceased. It was a set of instructions, a protocol to ensure that the soul arrived at the Hall of Two Truths intact, ready for processing. It guided them past lesser demons and distractions, not just for their own safety, but to ensure they reached their final, necessary appointment. And the great tombs of the pharaohs, filled with treasure and offerings? They were not just palaces for the afterlife. The pharaohs, as divine beings, possessed the most powerful souls of all. Their hearts were the grandest feasts that could be offered to the void. Their elaborate, protected journey to the underworld was the most important procession of all. For the offering of a single, powerful pharaoh's soul could placate the hunger for a generation, ensuring stability for the entire Egyptian civilization. The entire, complex, and beautiful religious system of ancient Egypt was, in this secret layer, a grand and intricate farming operation, a system for cultivating, preparing, and delivering spiritual energy to a place where it could be safely and efficiently disposed of, all to keep a far greater horror at bay. And so, Anubis stands his eternal watch. He is a being of profound and tragic irony. He is the son of the god of life, but his purpose is to facilitate the end of it. He is the adopted son of the goddess of magic and motherhood, yet he can create nothing and can offer no comfort. He watches civilizations rise and fall. He sees great heroes and terrible villains come before him. To him, they are all the same. They are merely threads to be measured, hearts to be weighed, and essences to be judged for their quality. He feels no joy when a virtuous soul passes to the field of reeds. He feels no satisfaction when a corrupt soul is fed to the void. He feels only the brief, momentary easing of the eternal pressure, the quiet hum of the hunger being sated, before it begins to grow again. His relationship with his family is a portrait of this tragedy. He respects his father, Osiris, the king he saved, but he can never truly be close to him, for Osiris represents the life he can never have. He loves his mother, Isis, but he can never share his burden with her, for her compassionate heart would break under its weight. He understands his mother, Nephthys, for they are both beings of shadow and secrets. And he has a strange kinship with his chaotic uncle, Set, for they are both forces of necessary disruption, two sides of a coin that maintains the cosmic balance. He is, in the end, utterly alone, a solitary figure standing at the crossroads of existence and oblivion, performing a task no one can ever thank him for, guarding a secret no one can ever know, his only companion the silent, hungry darkness he is sworn to serve. So we must look at the jackal-headed god with new eyes. He is not the villain of the Egyptian pantheon. He is not a devil, not a demon, not a force of simple evil. He is, perhaps, the most tragic, most necessary, and most heroic figure of them all. He is the child of a broken vow who spends eternity enforcing the most unbreakable of laws. He is the king of the gateway, a ruler who holds no lands, only a threshold. He is the judge whose court is not about morality, but about metaphysics. He is the high priest of a religion with only one god, a silent, hungry void. His grimness is the weight of his terrible knowledge. His isolation is the price of his eternal duty. He is the silent wall that stands between our vibrant, chaotic world and an entropy that would unmake it all. He is the warden who never sleeps, the sentinel who never looks away, the god who sacrificed his own potential for peace and connection for the sake of a cosmic balance that no one else even knew was threatened. The greatest deception in the Egyptian pantheon was not Set's murder of Osiris. It was the necessary collective decision to allow the world to fear the silent, solemn god who was, in truth, its ultimate protector. He is the hero who must be seen as a figure of dread, because the truth of what he truly guards is a fear far too great for any mind, mortal or divine, to fully bear. The greatest darkness is sometimes used to hold back a greater one, and the truest heroes are often the ones who stand their lonely watch in the shadows, forever unseen. Thank you for journeying with us into the Deat. If this unveiling of a misunderstood god has opened your eyes, show your support by liking this video, subscribing to Mythos Unveiled, and hitting the notification bell so you never miss another journey into the heart of our most profound and secret legends. Who is the most misunderstood figure in all of mythology? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, remember that the one who guides you into the darkness may just be the one who is protecting you from it.